It's a good system. Like, does it depend? Does it take into account like your speed,
I think
road
so,
condition,
yeah.
and
Okay. Not road condition, but I assume, but speed for sure.
That's still pretty good.
Okay. I gotta figure out a new setup. We have the computer here, so I can just hit record when.
Yeah.
I have to go over there.
Yeah. That's not gonna kick on, eh?
No, it's full.
All right.
Sorry.
Let's go, Tommy Texter.
Okay. I was just gonna let Amanda know, but
Okay.
it's fine.
It's Sunday. You don't have to let your boss know shit, bro.
I'm going there after
I know. Calm
for
down.
food.
Okay, Jesus Christ.
I'm hungry.
Record now, so quiet. This is now episode 41.
Dang.
41 episodes. This has been going on 41 weeks. This is,
It's almost as long as the pandemic.
yeah,
Holy
11
cow.
more weeks. We're at a full year.
That's come up out of nowhere.
I know, right?
52.
Wow.
Crazy.
Cool.
So welcome to Three Dudes and a Doc, episode 41. We're looking at Mr. Death.
Mr. Death.
So this recommendation was courtesy of Brett Harvey,
Yes.
a director of The Union, the business behind getting high.
Yes, and many other great
And
docs.
Inmate number 1,
Yes.
his most recent one.
Yes.
So we watched this one and wow.
Yeah, the rise and fall of Fred A. Leuchter
Yeah.
Leuchter,
Jr.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so. Let's get into it. That guy's name is maybe one of the most contentious things personally for me about this whole documentary.
Yeah.
Is at one point, he says his own name when he's speaking at the conference over in Europe,
Okay.
and it's Leuchter. He says in the Leuchter
Yeah.
report, or like thus named the Leuchter report.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy who introduced him, I think, said Leuchter, and I think previously and after there was Leuchter, there was Leuchter,
Yeah.
there was Leuchter. Unfucking believable.
Guy with no solid name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, after the fact, it seems pretty obvious that it's Leuchter.
Yeah.
And Leuchter, like
Yeah.
it, like that's how it's spelt. But for
So-
some reason,
But the name of the documentary, Mr. Death. So like he's like a murderer, or like what's his occupation?
So yeah, like a little background to Fred A. Leuchter. So basically, his dad was a prison guard growing up,
Yeah.
and he went. He said like all young children go with their dad to work.
Yeah.
I don't know. I never went to work with my dad all that much when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Ever.
not
I
like
don't
just
think.
to do stuff,
No.
but I was at my dad's work
Yeah.
a handful of times.
But
But if like you think you would be if your dad worked at
at the
like
prison.
Nope.
a hardcore correctional facility.
I highly
So-
doubt it.
He said, he would go to work with his dad, and
Yeah.
so he spent time in prison. And he said he learned stuff from prisoners, so obviously he had contact with prisoners.
Like
Yeah.
somehow like personal time. Like
Yeah.
he would just like lean on
Yeah.
the wall of the outside of the cell and just chit chat with
Yeah.
whoever.
So why are
And-
you here?
And somehow, I think he saw like executions happen.
Yeah,
Like,
and he was like, he said he would like walk around the prison, which is fucking
Yeah.
crazy. They just gave him access, and he's like, yeah, I saw like death row or like
Yeah.
where the inmates were held.
Yeah.
And
So
he's like, it's all just so inadequate.
and somehow, that made him qualified to design and upgrade execution
Yeah,
hardware.
Yeah.
Because he got looking at I think it was the first one he did was an electric chair. He upgraded an electric chair for, I believe, the Tennessee Department of Corrections.
I think so.
Yeah.
And so he completely redesigned their electric chair, and then all of a sudden became an engineer without any kind of educational
Well, that's
background.
how you become an engineer. You just like, I'm this now.
Yeah.
You just start working on it in your garage.
Yeah, you don't have to get that
Eventually.
kick-ass ring or anything.
Yeah.
You're just like, nah, I do this.
Well, literally, he's like that flat Earth guy
Yeah.
who
They have the same credentials.
decided he was going to build a rocket to prove, and then he ended up blowing himself up.
Yeah.
Except
Such a shame.
Fred never blew himself up or electrocuted himself.
Yeah. There was a couple funny moments where he posed in the chair, like when he got it in the mail.
Yeah.
He sat down in it.
Yeah,
gave
and
a
his
little test.
stepson was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
And then like, hey, you want to sit in it? And he's like, no.
Right.
Like, why would I want to do that?
Fuck off. That's crazy.
And it's also nuts how even like 5 minutes into this documentary, how like one of his famous quotes is, I'm not going to do it verbatim, but like how he's explaining how it's really hard to kill a human without it being painful
Yeah.
and really fucking up the body. But just how calm and cool he
Yeah.
is. Of like,
Like-
this guy's a fucking serial killer.
He is the epitome of like creepy dude that you like.
Yeah.
You start talking, you're like,
Yeah.
why the fuck am I talking
You
to this
have
guy?
weird hobbies.
And then
Yeah.
like his weird back pedals when he's like, I mean, it's pretty inhumane when they have to like cook him
he's
again.
blaming his coworkers.
Yeah, and then like he gets to a point where he's like talking about a prisoner, and then the guy got electrocuted once, and then he wasn't dead, and then he didn't refer to the prisoner as like a human. It was like
A vegetable.
yeah,
executee.
yeah, and then like a specimen or something where you're like, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah, like so, like with no formal education in like electrical engineering or engineering of any sorts.
I forgot that.
Yeah.
Until like the end when then they start questioning him.
Yeah,
And then I
and
was like, oh yeah, he made all this shit up.
He's basically just like an armchair expert.
Yeah, exactly.
that
And he
likes-
believes his own bullshit.
Yeah,
But like how that's crazy that like, he worked for the states, like worked for states, and they were like, yeah, sure. Like no one
Yeah.
vetted this guy.
well,
I mean, there would be no kind of formal education for this. You would simply have to have a mechanical background and
Yeah.
have proof of concepts. Really, was what
Yeah,
got
I
you
guess that's what
in the
they,
building.
yeah, because he said once we did the interview, or like he'd go in
But-
and be like, you got to change this and this and this.
yeah,
And I'm
like
like, oh, okay, you must know what you're talking about.
you would think you want someone with some kind of educational background, like in mechanical engineering or electrical engineering or something like that.
Both. Yeah.
I feel like we would want someone like that.
Yeah, but before you strap this person in this chair and
Yeah.
and used it for the first time, because you can't really test that.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
No.
That's what I was curious about, in that there's got to be a lot of theoretical work, and he does not seem to have that kind of actual scientific
Right.
method within him.
He's not a doctor. Like he doesn't know like how the human body. I mean, he says he does, but he has no like medical training to say, you know, this
Yeah.
amount
yeah.
of force or this amount of
Yeah.
electricity will.
Yeah.
Like, how do you just know that? Like,
Oh, there's nobody else in the world for that.
Yeah.
and this was pre like internet. You couldn't just Google it.
No.
and be
He's the
like-
guy. Yeah. He
It's also
says that himself.
Yeah. That like he's the only expert in this one field.
It's like they couldn't have gone anywhere else
When
in the
Christian
world.
and I were watching it, we were like, doesn't that mean that like you're for sure a crazy person because you're the only one?
Right.
Like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like, oh man, it just and so one of the crazy parts was like,
Oh, there's many crazy
Yeah.
parts.
but I think I don't know if it was Tennessee that sent him the chair or whoever sent him the chair, like wanted him to use the same chair because the wood
Yeah.
in it was like part of the original gallows.
Yeah, and the original electrical chair.
Yeah. So like it had some kind of like sentimental, like it wasn't just an object of carrying out an execution. Like there was some kind of like symbolism
Yeah.
like in this chair.
Yeah.
Which is super fucked.
Dude, speaking of that, I freaked myself out when they were talking about that chair, and I was like, man, if there's anything that could be haunted, for sure that
Well,
fucking chair's haunted. And then 5 minutes later, they're like, yeah, we took a picture, and there might have been a ghost. And we
Yeah.
were like, what the fuck?
So like, not only does he start talking like he's this self-proclaimed expert in execution, But then he starts talking about like auras can't be destroyed, and like when they electrify a human body, like how it like attaches the aura to that particular thing. Like that was just crazy in itself. And I'm full on for like ghost stories. Like I believe in like paranormal shit.
Mm-hmm.
But that was just like, man, you are the craziest man in the world.
That dude's in that thing was in his house. And it's not like he's like, whoa, I have like some weird moral thing and I'm going to stop with this electric shit. Like, this is fucked up. He's like, no, let's keep going.
And he just like, he talks about everything so matter of fact.
Yeah.
Like, it's just very...
Yeah, like any of the cases where they had electrocutions go awry, he's like, well, and then they did this, and then they tapped into the electrical outside, which the electrical company didn't know, but later on, they weren't opposed to it. And like, what the fuck are they going to do? Be like, hey, you can't do that. Like, we're shutting your power off to the prison.
Yeah, like, everything was so matter of fact.
Like, like he's the holder of knowledge.
Yeah.
He's the dispenser of what we know. Yeah. If anything is to know, he knows it. But on the whole, it's kind of weird to talk about this without talking about like weapons manufacturers and chemical weapon manufacturers, like things like grenades.
Yeah.
So the difference between what Leuchter does and what those manufacturers do would just be its singularity of operation.
Sure.
So when you electrocute someone in a chair, it's just one guy who's done something bad enough, you're going to kill him for it.
Yeah.
But when they send 80,000 troops over on like C-130s over to Afghanistan, and they all have grenades and AR-15s, and they kill 175,000 people en masse because they're worth killing.
Yeah.
They're bad enough. What's the difference? But like, that's not vilified like what this guy is being vilified as. This guy's a fucking creep. I'm not defending him.
So, and then...
It's strange. We probably should.
It is a weird...
Think about it.
So when Brett was suggesting this, he said, and there's a twist. So we'll get into the twist a little bit later. We'll continue to talk about Fred's work and...
that's great.
But and then we'll talk about the twist, because that's a huge... I think that's the main theme of the documentary, basically.
Another crazy little, like, somewhat not complete left turn, but maybe like a little bit, a couple degrees in the ship, is when he's talking about like doing the electrical share stuff, and then he's like, one state approached me about lethal injection, which I don't know anything about, but I said that we'll figure something out.
Yeah,
and then he's like, I made up this machine, and it's really hard to like inject a body, and like it'll kill you. And we were like, I'm pretty sure that's probably pretty easy
if you know what you're doing.
And like at that time, it wasn't like he's like, we were in 1919, and I was just shooting fucking gasoline into people.
But like, so the way he explained it is like, you have to have a certain pressure for it to inject without like blowback, I guess, whatever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But like, and just the detail he talks about, like the shit that happens when someone's
that creepy little machine.
Well, when he was talking about like the electric chair, he's like, well, like when a human is executed, they defecate and urinate themselves. Yeah. So you have a puddle of urine on the floor, which makes it very dangerous. And like again, super monotone.
Which what was his solution for that problem?
A drip pan.
Yeah, make a little tray underneath.
Like drip under pan. A barbecue.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And then, that too of like, wow. So then they piss themselves, and then there's highly electrified piss on the floor, and they have to mop that up. And then there's these prison guards sitting on, or like standing on a wet floor, like something could happen to them. Like, thank God nothing's happened, but I mean,
it's so strange. And you're like, it's almost like,
fuck?
If there's no electricity around because you're not murdering people, nobody else would get electrocuted because someone pissed on the floor because they died.
Yeah.
Like, he never thinks about that last step to the whole argument that maybe we just don't need to kill people.
It's funny, too, of like when he's still talking about the piss, and then at the end of it, he's like, let's be frank, there's piss on the floor. And you're like, dude, what? Like, we got that. And another thing of like 10 minutes in, when you clearly, like, all he's talked about is fucking capital punishment and how he designs this shit. He's like, let's be clear, I'm pro capital punishment. And like, we were dying laughing because they're like, dude, how do you think anyone was like, oh, maybe this guy is pro, like, anti this? Because
he's pretty liberal.
Yeah, that would make sense.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at one point, like, he still said, like, one of the states was using the gallows. So basically hanging people.
Yeah. I don't recall what state that was.
Yeah.
No.
And I mean, this was in the 80s because I think most of that took place in 89. I think the documentary came out in 99.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Regarding that as well, that a lot of this footage was like 10 years prior to release, but they had him reenact some things himself, did they not?
So I think that was all not found footage, but that was all like footage of interviews. Like, I don't think it was for the documentary.
Okay.
I think so. I think that was before, because if I read it right on the description, it was made up of interviews from the prison.
Sorry.
Maybe I read it wrong, but I thought it was like they had interviewed him before.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, yeah, that makes sense.
They just had, like,
because he
archival
was
stuff?
a bit of
So
a...
it says using
capitalistic-
film made at American prison. Oh, so maybe they just filmed for the documentary in the prisons. I guess that's what it means. But
So, about the gallows, how many states do you think still rock it?
Still rocket.
Yeah.
Wow.
As of...
8.
Oh, wait. This might be an old... Okay, as of 1993, so
Oh,
that's the latest I could do.
He was doing work then, though.
yeah.
Okay. What'd you say?
I said 8.
8? Jesus, that's not...
Wow. The gallows in 1993. That's really messed up. There's only a couple of states that could do that. I'm going to say 3.
You are correct. Washington, Montana, and Delaware.
Holy fucking shit. None of those I expected.
No, I expected like Texas, Florida.
Yep.
But those are all like old, like West, like cowboy
Not
states.
Delaware though. Delaware's
Yeah, that's true.
New England.
Yeah. Oh, fuck.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe
So,
I don't want to know, but like when
Washington,
was the last
Delaware,
use?
and who?
Washington, Montana.
Oh, Montana. Yeah, I Montana makes sense.
Yeah, and no, okay.
They seem
when
like
the death
such nice
penalty
people.
was restored, they took it away in 1976. The states of Washington and Delaware and New Hampshire returned to hanging as of available method of execution. As of 2019, New Hampshire remains the only U.S. state to allow hanging as a secondary method of execution.
Well, New Hampshire.
There are some states that still allow gas chambers too.
New Hampshire's state motto. I think they're that's Vermont. Is it New Hampshire? Live free or die.
Fuck yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
Woo! Oh, I thought it was going to be like, hang around.
Yeah.
Gas it up.
Find a strong tree. Like, oh, Jesus.
New Hampshire's motto
Good
is
Lord.
live free or die.
Yeah, every time I see that, I'm just
Wow.
like, Jesus Christ.
That's pretty cool.
We're here
I
to
love that motto. Like,
we're here to fucking party, boys. Like, I
not
guess
even
so.
like the fact that I freedom over everything, like that. But I mean, I'm a James Bond fan. Like, it just seems like a James Bond title.
Yeah.
Live free or die.
It does indeed.
Every little adventure there is like, oh,
Yeah.
this is like a James Bond movie.
Yeah. But yeah, like, so again, going back to the detail that he talks about, like, he created like a seatbelt like thing, because before you strapped them in, it was like a belt, right? So then the guard has to like, and in Fred like, what did we say his last
Leuchter.
name? Leuchter's
Mr.
style.
L. Let's call him Mr. L.
In Fred Leuchter's style, he got very descriptive and graphic when he said before he created his seatbelt like mechanism, it was a belt, and the guard had to push in the spongy, I guess, fried skin of the inmate and like unbuckle it.
Yeah.
Whereas now they just push a button and it comes loose.
But also when he unbuckled, he'd get like goop and shit all over his fingers.
Yes.
But also my question is, when were gloves invented?
Yeah.
Could
Well,
they
if you
not?
love your job
Could they not use gloves?
I mean, they make your hands chafe.
and sweaty.
Yeah.
Ew.
Okay.
You wouldn't want to get like.
There's only
that
so many
powder and
problems. Like
sweat.
you're like, I
And
already
it's
got to
like a
deal
little
with a
clay.
charred dead body.
But yeah.
Ugh.
So
Yeah.
Like,
I'd rather just get it on my hands.
yeah.
It's funny that they use like a safety belt to strap a dude down.
Yeah. Well, and then when he's talking about doing lethal injection, he's like, well, you could strap him to a gurney, or why not just put him in like a dentist chair so they can sit up and put something on TV in there and put paintings on
Nice
the wall,
paintings.
so they're relaxed before they die. I was like,
Those are simply facts that he has discovered throughout his life that he knows human beings like. So he decides to include them for the full picture of
They
him
also
being a
show
real
like
human being.
the fucking weakest painting, like some bullshit farm. I was like talking to Christian. I was like, man, I'd be so pissed. They're like, how
I'd
about
be
one
ready to
dude to be
die.
like, fuck your cows, bro? And they're like, damn.
That's why we're killing you, friend.
Yeah.
so, and now getting into like Fred as a person. Mitch and I were talking with this before we sat down. He admits to drinking, like he's talking about him talking to his doctor. And his doctor's like, how many cups of coffee do you drink a day? He's like, 40. He's like, no, like, how many cups of coffee do you drink a day?
Yep.
He's like, 40.
That's a real number.
His doctor's like, no, I'm being
Yeah.
serious. How many cups of coffee? He's like, I'm telling you, I drink 40 cups of coffee a day.
I really want to do the math on that. And also, how many packs of cigarettes was it?
6.
6. So, 6 packs of cigarettes. And like, what would a pack of cigarettes be in the 80s? Like 25?
Probably.
Okay.
20, 25.
Okay. And 40 cups of coffee. Like, what would the average drinking of a cup be?
I'm surprised he had any other time. Like, he'd always be making coffee or smoking a cigarette.
Or during this
Always.
documentary, how is he not just like, "Bah!" and then falls over?
So, so say on average you're up for 18 hours a day. No. So there's 24 hours in a day.
Man,
So
you're busy. You gotta slow down, man.
Luther's days consist of 72-hour days. Like, he thinks that's one day.
So
what do
say
you
you're
mean?
for 16 hours. You're getting 8 hours of sleep a day.
Right.
So
Yeah.
16 hours divided by 40 cups. It's like a cup every like 20 minutes. Is that about right?
I guess that's doable, but like, did you just hook up a catheter so you just pissed into a bag? Cause
That'd be kind of tight, though.
that would be sick. He's like, I'm fucking committed.
Yeah, they have those for motorcycles.
Yeah?
Yeah, they're called easy leakers.
Damn.
You just hook it up so that you can just ride. And
Like
ride,
catheter
ride.
style, or you like
Well,
just put it in the end of your dick?
It's probably something like a condom with a tube that just goes to the bag. But yeah.
Hey, you need to go piss? Use my bag.
Imagine watching the Hells Angels like gear up to ride.
That'd be
They're all
so
smoking this, like, little
sick.
bag
We're
of
all right,
the
back it
dick.
up, boys.
Over
We're
the
not stopping.
Hey, Chief, can you help me with with my dick bag?
Now the prospect has to do that. He's like, I always hate this part of the ride, guys. Has everyone got their bags?
But yeah, like 40 cups of coffee a day.
That's fucked. And 6 packs of cigarettes. Like,
Yeah.
how is he not like his voice completely fucked?
Yeah.
And
And I mean, he's still alive today.
yeah,
In reality, he was only 28
77?
when they filmed the documentary.
he was a
No,
teenager.
that can't be a fact.
Teenager. A part of me wants him to listen. Like, listen, Mr.
Listen
L.
to this. We'll send it to him.
Fuck yeah, Mr. L. What's up, dog?
Why not?
How's the execution game going?
Not interested. Nah, he's retired.
I mean, he's
for
probably
sure.
stoked. He might be stoked about COVID, where he's like, "Fuck, should have got control of a disease like that. We could have really got some people."
Yeah, I never thought about like controlled diseases.
So currently, Fred is 77 years old.
Killing it.
Yep.
That's cool. So yeah, his work was pretty crazy, and yeah.
I think what Tyler said
he had a
earlier
wife.
that like the scope of the documentary really was to talk about the twist that he's like a major anti-Semite,
Yeah, so-
and maybe even not. I don't think
Hey.
he's anything, to be
doesn't
honest. I think he's
say.
kind of an empty person who has mechanized
So why would you?
natural aspects
Yeah.
of our lives.
Why would you say he's an anti-Semite? What happened?
So I
guess we haven't actually got there yet.
And I don't. He's
coming out the gate strong.
So starting on this, I don't think he's actually an anti-Semite. I think
No, I think
think
he's an anti-human.
So basically, yeah, he's a Holocaust denier. Basically, he's saying there was no such thing as gas chambers at Auschwitz, Birkenau, like anything like that.
Yeah, I think that's the twist that Brett was talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
It's got to be.
I thought it was that he had a stepson.
and a wife.
Oh,
that's why I joked with Christian's friend, because he was watching it with us. In the first 10 minutes, he's like, man, this guy's fucked up. This guy's fucked up. And I was like, dude, you know what's even more fucked up? This guy had a wife. And he's like, oh, man. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he had any actual kids. I think he had a stepson.
Yeah, see, I thought he had a kid. I missed that part. But yeah, so why was he a Holocaust denier? Why did he deny?
So in Canada, there was a case against Ernst Zundel, who was a German national, but he was living in Canada.
Yeah, we looked up some of that guy.
Yeah.
He's
so basically he's a revisionist historian. For people that don't know what that is, it's people that have revised versions of history and what that they believe.
Most of the time, it's detrimental. It's a negative impact.
Absolutely.
To the study.
So there was a case where Ernst Zundel published this newsletter or a book or a paper and distributed it overseas, saying that the Holocaust never happened. 6 million Jews were never killed, everything like that. So he was taken to court, criminally charged. And
that was a landmark case, too, in
absolutely.
Canada.
And so he had to find some expert to prove his theory that there's no such thing. So
gas chambers were never used. There were chambers, but they were possibly morgues.
Yeah.
They were never actually used for execution.
He reached out to Fred, and as Fred is the only expert that was able to or willing to testify on his behalf. So they sent him over to Poland, to Auschwitz and Birkenau, and with a video crew, so they could videotape him collecting samples to guys to see that it's legit. And so he did that. But when did this happen? It was a month after he
got married.
So the original title of this film was supposed to be Honeymoon in Auschwitz.
Boom. Dude, I thought it was weird that Bernie Sanders had his honeymoon in Soviet Russia, but this guy just fucking upped the level so hard. Even when his wife is there, she's like, yeah, I didn't go inside. I just read books because it was a really fucked up place. Yeah, and when he gets to Auschwitz, there's a part that I was like, I don't know if I should laugh, but what the fuck? He's like, yeah, the first night we got there, we stayed where
Auschwitz Hotel.
Yeah, where the officers stayed. So it was all right quarters. And what? Oh, you didn't stay in the bunks?
Yeah.
No way.
And so I guess that's turned into a hotel now.
Holy fuck.
Which is crazy weird in itself.
Oh, man.
But he goes on to describe what they had for dinner at the hotel. Yeah. It was starch soup. So basically they boiled noodles and then took the noodles out and gave them the water. And he said it was terrible. And then he had a second helping because when he wasn't looking, his wife dumped hers into his bowl. So he had to eat it twice.
He's like, ha ha ha, I ate pasta water twice.
But yeah, and just telling that story, it just seems so fucking weird.
Yeah. And then after I went pee. What? Who cares?
Yeah, again, so going back to, he's just so matter of fact, there's no, if he was trying to make it a joke, there's no inflections of him joking. Yeah. It's just, he's telling it as it is, as it happened.
Yeah, I really wish Earl was
facts.
tell me a joke.
Yeah.
He just says the dumbest shit. You're like, what?
But yeah, so he goes over to Auschwitz and Birkenau, illegally obtains samples of walls, floors, like that.
Yeah, chisels away pieces of what have kind of become natural monuments to human history and experience. And he now, if we go there as a threesome, we travel there, we'll see that vandalism.
Yeah.
And that's
because I don't think technically you're supposed to be in there.
Probably not, but if we were to do that, we'd end up in fucking Polish prison so goddamn fast.
Yeah. Well, and he said he had an escape plan if anyone's to ever stop them, because he said how he was going to smuggle the pieces of concrete out of the country, put them in with his dirty laundry, because he didn't think anyone would go through his dirty laundry.
That was also at a time when you could just show up with a machine gun in an airport and put it under your sweater, and they're like, okay.
Yeah.
This guy had to have seen something when he was 13, because that's what a fucking 13-year-old thinks of. That's not at all clever.
Yeah.
Obviously, he got them back to the States, so it was
dude,
fine.
He got his sweet education from those prisoners.
Well, partially, yeah. In
he does
how
talk
to block
about, like,
emotional channels.
They taught me some things that I don't necessarily know are good, but they later became handy later on in life.
Yeah, and he never explains.
No, he's
that.
like, like picking locks and like
cracking safes and stuff. Yeah, so
having
like,
sex with guys, but whatever.
this guy used to go with his dad to work to prison and used to walk around death row and shit and learn things from the prisoners and be told things unsolicited.
Yeah, it's so weird that he could just have such firsthand access to prisoners, and he was just this kid walking around. Like, even if he's a teenager, like, that's fucking weird.
So like now his intellectual side of his brain and like in contrast to the emotional side is able to flourish because he's being encouraged to build things and learn from these prisoners. But what he's learning is how to look at people like they're objects.
Yeah.
Like they're just another piece of furniture in the world for him
Right.
to move to this place or to change in this way.
Mm-hmm.
And he stumbled across something fascinating to him because he is no longer able to feel.
Well, and like they explained, like the one guy says, like, I don't think he's like outright like an anti-Semite. I think he just latched onto something, like he was embraced by a group of people who believe this thing, and he thinks he's the smartest guy in that group, and he's the one that can prove it.
Yeah.
So now, and he's a little guy, like he's like someone. What's the word I'm looking for? Someone described him as like a mouse of a man. So like he's just like a tiny.
they did.
See, I just always have something to prove.
Yeah, he's kind of like a tiny, nerdy. Like if you looked at him, he's very unassuming. He's very kind of like sheepish. Like he's just kind of like, if you saw him out on the street, it's someone you wouldn't even think twice about. Like would not even register in your psyche.
Yeah.
So he's been embraced by this group. He feels like the smartest man, the most powerful man of this group now. And holy shit, if this, like, that's just like me going and saying, oh, you know what? I think, so let's go back to flat earthers. Like, say flat earthers are a group of people, and I go in and say, you know what? I am the foremost authority on the earth being flat. I can prove it with whatever fucking junk science that I use. I can prove that the earth is flat, and then these people kind of like lifting you up and putting you on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Of course I'm going to keep going with that, because that's like, as much as everyone tries to deny it, if someone props you up and someone like looks at you as like a god, it's going to fucking go to your head, and it's going to change the way you act.
This guy just wanted to win one.
Yeah.
And then he walked into an echo chamber.
Yeah.
And he got propped up by himself.
Yeah.
Just in different bodies. Like he didn't realize that he wasn't alone.
Sure.
So he takes the samples of rocks because he was trying to prove that they didn't use Zyklon B.
Yeah.
And then took it to a lab, but didn't tell the lab
where it was from,
what
they were looking for.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, we said it was for like, didn't they say it was for like
an industrial accident?
Yeah, okay.
That's also disgusting.
Yeah.
So
they referred to it like that.
Right there, when like Christian and I were talking, we were like, well, if this was for a court case, wouldn't that be thrown out because like the research was done and shit was done under false pretenses?
Yeah.
Like,
well, and that's what they interview the guy from the lab.
Yeah, which is hilarious.
And he's like, if they had have told me what it was from, I would have done it completely differently.
Yeah.
Like, once you start smashing the brick and getting it into a dust, you're diluting it.
Yeah.
He said, of course we didn't find anything because there's nothing there to find anymore because you're diluting
and like
it to a millionth time.
Whatever the measurement was, they were saying that the gas would penetrate into the brick.
Maybe 10 micron.
Yeah.
And he's like, a human hair is 100.
Yeah.
So like we just fucked this whole thing.
Yeah, he said we're trying to look on the surface. Like for that kind of stuff, you look on the surface.
Which I was like, Christian and I were like, well, we're not fucking chemists, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
That you're like, like how is the gas gonna penetrate all the way through?
Right.
And still be there fucking 50 years later.
Well, in the part where, he chisels off some of the walls, he chisels off, some of the stuff.
Yeah.
And then like he's like, well, I want to try and get a sample from the floor, and it's in a puddle of water. And
Yeah.
he's like, let me just grab some of this sediment. And
Yeah.
he just like scoops up stuff out of water. It's like,
Yeah.
well, of course you're not gonna fucking find anything there. Like it's covered in water that's been there for, however many years.
It's also pretty nasty that he just stuck his hand in like nasty bunker water.
Yeah.
In a room where thousands and thousands and thousands of people were killed.
Yeah. Well, but he doesn't think that. So
Man, and the one like or not the denier, but I guess denier to Mr. L's claims was saying that the one gas chamber in Auschwitz, like 500,000 people died there.
Yeah.
So they're like, that's just fucking insane.
Yeah.
Concentration wise, that's probably the highest. That likely is the highest. I think that they said that too.
Yes, it did.
Of, people to ever die.
They said if you had to make a roadmap of human suffering, that would be the central place on the map.
Yeah. Be like burning red.
And everything kind of, spiders out from there. But, like just, again, we're not chemists. We're not investigators. But I think we could have gone there and done a better job than Mr. Leuchter.
Mm-hmm. And
Leuchter? I don't know. Leuchter?
Mr. L, bro.
Mr.
Why
L.
the fuck are we not calling him Mr. L? That's the easiest way. One of the people, I forget the guy's name, but that was ripping on Mr. L and was like, yeah, of course he came up with this stupid bullshit claim.
I think it was Robert Jan Van Zant.
Maybe.
Something like that.
Yeah. He was like, well, if you read the reports, like the German reports and like the Nazi reports about them like getting gas and how they were systematically doing this. Yeah. But he's like, oh, wait, he doesn't read or speak German. And we're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, he could have went to the archives and looked up all this information about what they were actually building there.
I just love subtle burns by intellectuals where they're like, well, Tyler, you don't know Latin. And you're like, oh, burn!
And also, like, this has nothing to do with Fred, but when he, like, that historian was going through and, like, going through the documents of how they built them and
the receipts
and everything. Yeah, invoice, like, saying, like how they wrote, invoice me for the gas later.
I need this fucking sweet door or sweet window in this door.
No, so that's the crazy part. They had a fucking peephole in the door. So, like, was somebody sitting there watching them get gas?
Yeah.
Like,
that was likely like an actual position.
Man, which means that, like, they had a solid door before, and then they gassed people and opened the door, and then we're like, oh shit, people are still alive in here.
Yeah.
And then, like, be like, man, we need to figure out a way. Like, can we just look in there? Because, like, I don't want to go in there.
So basically, like, that, like a hotel peephole, so 8 millimeters wide, so they could sit there and look into it and be like, oh, okay, yep, we're good to go. Let's open it up. Yeah, that's fucking insane.
None of these things that we're talking about were thought of like this.
No.
Though, when they were there. And that's the scariest part.
And Mr. L was like, obviously, the Nazis didn't do this because, like he said earlier, like, it's really kind of difficult to kill someone. And he's like, why wouldn't they just shoot them?
Or put them in a mine and close off the mine.
Like, did they just have fucking random holes throughout Germany or Eastern Europe, or they just throw people in?
Well, and that's what I said. Like,
well, the bullet thing was so stupid because even before we watched this, I was like, Christian and I were talking, and I was like, dude, there was reports of like same thing with the gas about they were like, we shot a bunch of Jewish people in this town, but like we need bullets because we're at war, and like. It like fucks up the morale of our men that we're going in shooting women and children. So like we need to figure out another way.
Well, because they did hang Jews and they did shoot Jews.
Yeah, and then they were like, man, this is a lot of work.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, we need a faster, more efficient way. And he's like, no, it didn't.
German engineering.
Oh, man.
Maybe Leuchter's just a little bit reminiscent. Like, he's just like, I missed my time.
Fuck, I wish I was
one generation off.
I could have helped them. We could have had sweet chairs. We could have had little kid chairs.
Yeah.
For the whole fam.
Yeah, and that was like one of the most craziest claims. He said, well, it would have been more efficient to put them all down in a mine shaft and seal it off. Like, what? No, like, that's not efficient in any way, shape, or form. Like...
Man, you think they just make some kick-ass underground community?
First off, you have to herd all these people into a mine shaft. Like, that's hard in itself. Like, I'm sure getting them into the gas chambers was hard. Imagine trying to get a huge group of people down into a mine shaft.
Yeah.
Like, that's... Yeah. And then sealing it off and then just letting them, like, waste away there.
Yeah, they'll figure it out.
Like,
That's insane.
Yeah.
I thought he meant like an open pit mine, so you just walk them off the edge of a cliff. And they just fall down a big hole.
He said seal it off. So, like...
Yeah, put a big cap on it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
He's like, look, I drew a picture, so this is what they needed to do. So, like, Jesus Christ.
So Leuchter takes his findings from the forensic lab that says, we didn't find any hydrocyanide or whatever it is, some kind of cyanide.
Yeah.
We didn't find any traces of it, so yeah, I guess you're right.
They didn't use it.
So then
imagine science was that easy. That'd
Yeah.
be sick.
We'd be dead.
They tried to put that into evidence in the criminal court case, and the judge was like, "No, this isn't evidence. I will use it as, I forget the word he used. It wasn't evidence, but we'll allow it as something.
Heat for their fire to just fucking throw it in and burn it.
They allowed the defense to use it in court, but not as actual quote unquote evidence. So they allowed them to present it in court. Ernst Zundel was still found guilty, so it didn't work. But they actually had the chemist from the lab down in Massachusetts come up and testify, but he didn't know what he was testifying for until the lunch break, he said. He goes, and then he found it. He said, well, fuck, if I had have known that, I would have done it completely different. Like, we wouldn't have tested the way we tested it. So...
That's amazing too, that literally after a single sentence where he discovers a piece of information that he didn't have before, he changes his methodology entirely.
Sure, yeah.
Because he would be like, oh, wait, like, I'm going to maybe be perceived to be with this guy, so, like, fuck that
too.
Like, no way, this guy fucked me, or, like, he gave me false information.
Yeah. And so, like, after this court case, Leuchter comes out and puts out the Leuchter report, which is his findings saying why the Holocaust didn't happen.
Okay, now he his speaking tour was like to like high schools and like governments and stuff, right? Like high intellectual people, was it? Or who was he talking to?
I think it was like neo-Nazis.
Yeah, it was. Definitely it was.
Yeah, well, I mean, those are basically the same people.
I guess so. Good call.
What do we do in our free time?
Not neo-Nazi stuff.
No. Oh, no, I wasn't.
Yeah, I thought that's what you were implying. Then I was like, I mean,
say nothing. No, but like we do stuff on our free time, even though we work other places.
Yeah.
So like they could be officials and teachers.
For
Oh
sure.
yeah, okay.
But then just attend this thing on the weekend.
Yeah, a lot of that footage of the crowd was old white people for sure.
Yeah.
I love after one of his speeches, he's like, hi, I'm like, oh, thank you, I'm Fred A. Leuchter. And then the one dude was like, here. And I was like, oh, man, how racist do you think that fucking guy is?
And I think he said, like, again, and when he talks, he just seems like a mouse of a man. Like, he's very small. And so when he finishes his one talk, he's like, I hope the information I provided was good.
Yeah.
And then everyone's like, yeah. Like, you're crazy. But
I was at a creationist seminar up in Northern Ontario, a little place called Flinton. And
I know Flinton very well.
Yeah. It's easy to get to know. It's just a couple of people. So, but they had this creationist seminar, and I was coaxed into going by an old coworker because he said that it was about the creation of the universe. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, if this is like what I think it is, then like shame on you because you know that I won't like this. But so I guess that's besides the point. There were people there who I have seen before, and they're members of the community in one way or another, and they were cheering and they were like hooting it up because this was fundamentally, I guess actually it's a funny word to use, this was fundamentalist. So like they were reading through the Bible briefly for the particular points, and this was a presentation.
And that alone hyped them up, like just a Bible verse.
because it was followed up with science can't explain that. I shit you not. Yeah, and then like actual cheers and like whoops from the audience. It was insane. There was only like 50 people there.
Can we go?
They collected everyone in like the surrounding 100 kilometers of Flinton, and they all showed up. So like it was small, and there were people there who have influence for sure, but they believe this nonsense.
Let me guess. It was at the White Church on Flinton, Maine.
Oh.
Yeah.
Tyler's the president.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I've been to a funeral.
He couldn't have been there that day.
No, but so like it's definitely eye-opening to go to something like that because I was not expecting it, and I was expecting to see like a handful of farmers and then like just regular old churchy people.
Yeah.
But I didn't expect the actual content to be like what it was and these people to be there in attendance. And it's
So,
kind of gross.
Yeah, it's something that could be funny, but then you'd be like, oh, that's freaky.
Yeah, like half of my community is like kind of stupid.
Yeah.
After he releases this report, basically he loses all his contracts.
Which he doesn't understand why.
Yeah, all his contracts with all the
I don't get it.
the departments of corrections.
Yeah.
Did I piss someone off or something? What did we do?
And then he's actually criminally charged in Massachusetts for practicing engineering without being registered.
And then, what does he do with a piece of half of electrical?
No, half of a lethal injection machine.
Yeah. What does he do with that, Christian? What does he do with it?
I think he tries to sell it.
Yeah.
And puts it in the classified.
And also doesn't understand why the state is pissed off at him.
And he basically has a sales pitch in the doc. He says, if anyone's looking for a half of a lethal injection machine, just email me, like, or call me.
He was really upset too because he said he put about $7,000 worth of work into it.
Yeah.
In the classifieds, it's just like a couple of frames, but you see that he's listed it for 10.
Yeah.
How many serial killers? Very true.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, like so he lost all this work and he was criminally charged. I don't know if he was ever actually found guilty.
I don't think so.
But yeah, like for practicing engineering without credentials.
It seems like something that'd be pretty easy to prove somewhat. But
Yeah, and then he says in the documentary that 90% of engineers in Massachusetts aren't registered.
That's what we were saying. I'm like, wouldn't like every other fucking building in Massachusetts just be falling over because people are like, nah, I don't know, throw it up. I'm qualified.
Yeah.
I really don't believe too much that this guy actually says.
I don't even think his name's Fred.
So that's like me saying, I lived in a house for a while. I could probably build one.
Yeah,
Exactly.
The three of us, let's fucking build a house.
I grew up watching my dad at prison in a prison.
Yeah,
I could create a machine.
I think I can
people.
kill these motherfuckers.
Yeah.
I'm like, Jesus.
So like that precisely is the sentiment that I was getting towards when I said that I don't think that this is actually about the twist, the Holocaust denial. I think that this is a really good caricature of a shallow narcissist who
That's originally what this was supposed to be.
just has a really hard time with his ego and the public.
Yeah, originally this was just
Just a profile.
Mr. L looking at the straight down the barrel of the camera. And then when Errol Morris showed it to a bunch of his friends, they're like, hey, you should get more shit just to prove that how crazy this guy is.
I mean, those are two pretty fucking huge tent poles.
Yeah.
Dude, I guess I've been a bunch of premieres. When Errol Morris showed this to a bunch of students, there were some students that were like, Mr. L.
Swayed by it.
Yeah, Mr. L is right. He's the man. And then he was like, I know that's not what I wanted to do.
Damn it.
They're like, fuck, these kids are dumb.
So he originally wanted the title to be Honeymoon in Auschwitz, and then this production company or whatever said, no, I call it Mr. Death. And then when he showed it to the students, and the students started believing what he was saying and saying, oh shit, maybe he's right. Maybe there were no gas chambers. So I think I was reading, it didn't really show the rise and fall. So then that's when he put the subtitle, The Rise and Fall of Fred A. Leuchter.
Okay.
So people knew okay, Like he's crazy. He's
Lecherous Leuchter.
He should have just went to like Argentina or something, because they wouldn't have gave a shit about that, and they probably still execute people.
Yeah, but everyone there is kind of brown.
Except for all the Germans that live there.
Yeah, so he just hangs out with them in the jungle in the middle of nowhere.
I just assumed he wouldn't like that
Fuck
kind
him.
of thing.
So
Oh yeah, for sure he doesn't. American History X is his favorite
And again,
movie. He only watches the first 3/4 of it.
and again, like I don't think he's actually racist. Like I think he's racist, but not like
not actively.
he's not like a neo-Nazi who's like, oh, the
Yeah, but
the
it's
Germans had the right idea. They're the
Yeah.
master race. I think he just believes his own shit, that he's smart enough to figure out a truth that nobody else, that the world cohesively like agrees that the Holocaust did happen.
yeah.
But he's the smart one that can prove that it didn't.
Yeah.
And I think that's his flaw. I don't think he's like gonna join like the KKK or.
I don't think
like
so
that.
either, but if the KKK was like, so who do we write the check out to? He's like, oh, you, my bank account
For sure.
is this?
For sure.
And then they're like, that's fucked
He's a
up.
piece of shit.
Yeah.
I think he definitely would like even like lead a parade. I can just see him wanting to be loved that much that if some neo-Nazi gang were to be like, you're gonna hold the flag, you are up at the front, and they just like
Such
pick
an
him up,
honor.
like he'd fucking cheer.
Yeah.
Like he wouldn't even think about what he was doing. He
Right.
would just basically receive
So-
the impulse of they're celebrating me.
Why is anyone upset? We're all having a good time.
And again, and I think it shows that he's kind of
Exactly.
spineless. Like his wife in the interview, they never show her on camera, but they give her a voice interview.
Yeah.
And she's like, you know what? Like eventually, I was just like, I need a divorce. So she told him I want a divorce, and she's like, he hemmed and hawed for a little bit, then it was like, okay, and like packed his stuff and moved out.
Yeah. This like he
Like,
reminds
what was
me
the
of,
him and hawing in his head where he's like, do I kill her? No.
possibly. Maybe they just didn't have good insurance.
Yeah.
Because like he was a bit of a freelance contractor.
Like, how many people know your activities today? Like, shit, too many. I was going to kill you.
I gotta let you go.
Jesus.
Yeah, well, she said he just hemmed and hawed for a bit. I was like, okay.
He reminds me of the kids in South Park when the town is dealing with their flag. It's got a black guy hanging with a bunch of white stick figures, and the kids are fighting to keep it because they think it's cool. But everyone's like everyone who was trying to change it was confused, and it's because the kids didn't even see the color of the people.
Yeah.
They just saw someone getting what they deserved, I guess.
Yeah.
That's just on the other side of innocence. That's so innocent that you didn't see the bigger picture altogether. And I feel like that's somehow Leuchter. Like he's just really excited because he can engineer these things, and he didn't want to go to school for it.
So,
And then he was celebrated.
so I mean, I would go as far to suggest, like, you know, obviously this was before autism diagnosis kind of really came into their own.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised because he seems very simple. Not that autistic people are simple, but he seems to extremely excel in this one area.
Wow, yeah, that's so true. And the
And
whole
he's
matter
just
of fact.
He's very socially awkward, very.
Yeah.
He doesn't realize what the image of his life looks like from the outside. He has no perspective of himself.
I feel like like he's
That's
somewhere on the spectrum where he super focuses on this one section, and apparently he's good at what he does. Although I did read that most places that were using his equipment stopped using them
After or just shortly after?
have just stopped using them because they were too hard to operate and maintain. So like they were over engineered.
Yeah.
So like
that typical German engineering.
yeah. But yeah. So like they were too complicated for these people to use. So they stopped using them. Whether or not that had to do with his Holocaust views as well, I don't know.
But that's funny though, because he has the whole report of, or the whole thing of when he upgraded them about how complicated and all the bullshit, and like, well, we simplified everything.
Yeah. And again, like I think he has to be a pretty smart dude, which I think
Guess so.
people on the autism spectrum are.
Yeah.
They're intelligent, just in a different way than other people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I think he's extremely intelligent in this way, but just has no real self-awareness.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that that's pretty much spot on.
Yeah.
This one was done, the documentary was done in a kind of whimsical way.
Yeah.
There was some goofy music in the intro. There was
So,
lots of flashing lights and
That's
shit.
what I was going to talk about the intro. The intro is very, very cinematic. Like,
Yeah.
it looked like a Frankenstein movie, right? Because
Yeah.
it's all like, it looks like a Nikolai Tesla
that painting.
lab.
The
Yeah.
coil, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like
Yeah.
all these like sparks going, and you can see Leuchter in the background.
Yeah. This
and
big, demeaning figure,
Yeah.
he's silhouetted. And
Well, and I think I started watching it on my computer in here, and my wife was here, and I heard the music. And she's like, "Oh, that sounds like a Star Wars movie." Like, it's just very operatic and very cinematic,
grandiose.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to
Like this, like,
daylight, white guy, white shirt, and he's just like,
And
talking
this
around
super
dancing
meek,
and shit.
super meek guy. Okay, so when I said Tesla there, like, it just kind of sparked the fucking footage of Thomas Edison electrifying the elephant.
That was unexpected, to say the least. I've never seen that footage before.
So Mitch,
Oh, you've never seen it?
no,
Oh,
Mitch
yeah.
and I were talking about that, like, and he did that for really no particular reason other than to prove Tesla wrong.
Yeah, that AC, like, because Tesla came up with AC current, and Edison had DC. Is that what-
Yeah.
yeah. And then if a city ran on DC current, you would have to have like power stations like all over the city. But Tesla's, it would like you just have one, and then you have little repeaters or some shit,
Yeah.
or whatever they have now. So Edison shocked the elephant just to prove that like, oh, there's too much electricity, and it's gonna like fuck, like if anything goes wrong, like it'll fuck up a whole city.
Yeah.
So he really had no reason, and his technology that he was backing was bullshit. So it's just crazy that
Just
like.
brought in this like poor elephant.
And I feel
just
like I think they like
electrocuted it.
sold tickets, and I think it was like, hey, come and check this out. Like, what are you doing next Sunday?
We're gonna electrocute an elephant. Sunday.
Going to a barbecue.
The next day, fucking PETA was invented because people were like, man, we got to do something.
But yeah, like that was just crazy
Yeah.
footage. And I mean, what year would that have been? Like
late 1800s.
late 1800s, early 1900s?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
It was just like,
And they do it, and then like, all right, well, what do we do with this
and
elephant
there's
now?
just a lot of smoke.
Let's just leave it here.
And it wasn't even black and white footage, it was like brown footage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was weird.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, that, like, this whole documentary is just kind of fucking crazy and a weird story. And
It's a
then,
fucking death carnival.
That was
Yeah.
near the beginning too,
Yeah,
wasn't
that-
it?
yeah,
Yeah.
it
So
was
you're
right
like, wait, what? What's going on with
yeah.
this?
I was watching, I was like, oh shit, did they just show that elephant getting electrocuted? Yeah.
They use pretty much the same footage, if not the same footage, for the outro as well. Like,
Yeah.
he's back in the lab and the coils are firing.
Mm-hmm.
There's sparks everywhere, and he's
Yeah.
blacked out again, silhouetted. But now you know all this stuff, and he kind of does seem like an evil character, but he still seems mousy.
Yeah.
Like, he
yeah.
seems
He's
like-
a very meek individual.
If somehow you were to let him go free for 1,000 years, he would end the world.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
unquestionably. But
One chair at a time.
he's only 77, and there are laws.
Yeah.
So
do you think
he
all
wasn't
of-
able to get it done.
Like after his business was like completely destroyed from his whole weird Holocaust views. So he probably, let's like imagine that he probably had not sold electrical chairs. So like, do you think he uses them for like furniture and shit, or like
No, because I think
dining room table set?
I don't
It's
think
just
he-
old electrical chairs.
I don't know.
That'd be hilarious.
I'm trying to think like if because I think a lot of the ones he did were like refurbished. Like
Yeah.
he took the existing chair and just built new.
He's like West
components
Coast
for it.
Customs. He's like,
Yeah.
I'll pimp out your chair.
Pimp
Yeah.
my fried.
I think
Exhibit
that's,
doesn't have shit on Mr. L.
Yeah. See, so you know what this reminded me of too? I don't know if you guys have ever seen The Green Mile
Yeah.
with Tom Hanks.
Oh,
Yeah.
a long, long time ago.
Fantastic movie, by the way. But the one prisoner in the prison pisses off one of the guards, and the guard's like a really entitled, like super rich guy's nephew, and he's just an asshole. He's basically the bad guy in the movie, and so he pisses him off. So he pretends like back then, I think that was set in the 20s or 30s. Back then they would wet a sponge, put it on the top. They would shave your head, put it on the top of your head, and then put the little cap on to help the current flow through you. So he pretends to wet it, but doesn't actually, and puts the dry sponge on top of the head. So a guy like literally sets on fire and like burns up in the chair.
Just fries him.
Yeah, and it took like, because you have to keep going until he's dead. So like he keeps going, and he's like screaming in the chair, and then all of a sudden his like head bursts on fire, and then they say like, "You fucking didn't wet the sponge." And he's like, "Oh, I didn't think I had to."
Oh, sorry, boss.
Yeah, but he was just doing it to torture that prisoner.
God damn.
Yeah.
That's insane to me that we still operate on a basis of going to prison as punishment, but actually we send people to prison for some punishment.
Yeah.
Like, going to prison should be enough. I mean, I know that that's not the way it's done in the States and some other countries in the world, but
Right.
I mean,
Well,
prison
China,
reform
they don't
is-
tell you like when your execution date is. You just wake up and they're like, "You're dying today."
Fuck.
today's the day. Well, and that's like talking to Brett last week. Like, you know, the U.S. has 25% of the world's population, but 75% of the world's imprisoned population. Like, yeah, the U.S. just operates.
I think they have 5% of the world's population.
Yeah, sorry,
25% of all prisoners
Yeah,
That's right.
are in the States.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay.
Hey man, it's a good business to get into.
Yeah.
That's fucking terrifying.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way prisons are run in the States is fucking abhorrent.
Speaking of which, another thing Mitch and I were talking about, most of our listeners are from the
Yeah.
States.
Yeah.
Every episode,
Fuck you guys.
you fucking rip on them, and we have like a lot, most. Yeah,
I would say like 60% of
Yeah.
our listeners are from
Yeah.
the States.
so you got some self-haters that love you, bro.
I love it.
Yeah, so all in all, crazy
Yeah, I was not
documentary.
expecting the Holocaust
No,
turn.
yeah.
And you're like, whoa, what? The
So
fuck?
yeah, excellent recommendation.
And all the
by-
like, just how crazy
yeah.
this dude is, and excellent recommendation.
So we were looking at some of Errol Morris's other films, and we have a few of them in our jar here.
I would really like to watch Thin Blue Line.
Yeah, we had talked.
It's
we've
a
talked
pretty
about that before,
groundbreaking doc. Yeah.
And then there's another one with Ventura, Florida.
Yeah, just about a weird town
Yeah.
in Florida, and Tabloid. I don't know.
Yeah.
You've seen that one, right?
I don't think so, no.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
The Fog of War. I haven't seen that, and I'm pretty sure it's pretty good.
Yeah, so we'll have to add some more of his films to the
Yeah,
list, and
yeah.
It was really well done. I think overall, I really liked
Yeah.
it. It was
Yeah.
kind of flashy. It was.
I tried to see tried to find the
cinematic.
budget quickly, but I couldn't
Yeah.
find
The
the
only
budget.
thing, like, sometimes they went to black, and then it still had them talking over instead of showing anything. It just was just black with voiceover, which I thought was jarring at first, but then after you get into it, you don't even pay attention to it anymore.
At the beginning, when Mr. L was just talking like straight down the barrel,
Yeah.
it was like, there might need to be like a little bit more of like
Yeah.
just camera movement or something. But the content is so crazy that they're like, just get this guy fucking sitting here and get him to talk.
Yeah,
So that was a cool technique of just fucking put that shit on a tripod,
right.
hit record, and like just ask him questions.
Yeah,
And then like his weird, like you were saying, of weird attempts at humor or
yeah.
just how
for
he
sure.
goes to smile, and then it's almost like he's like, "Oh no, we can't smile about that.
Yeah.
We're talking about dead people."
I haven't given it too much thought, but I think that this would be considered a class 3
Yeah.
documentary because I heard Errol ask a question to him in the interview when they were like interviewing him.
Right.
I can't remember what the question was, but definitely some influence.
Crazy. So whose turn is it to pick our?
You
our
picked
next
last time, didn't you?
one? I can't remember.
I think it's
Pass me
you.
that jar.
Put your hand in the fishbowl.
I kind of want something a little
your
crazy
hand
again.
in the fishbowl.
I'm not gonna lie.
Kid killers, like kids that kill, not
Keep it
people
up.
that kill kids.
Oh man, this
Drum
is one
roll.
of those fade ones. Oh my god, why is this me?
Yeah.
The Crisis of Civilization.
Oh, what? That seems like
Is
it
it
might
one of
be
the
a
yellow
foo-foo.
yellow text ones?
Tis.
It's foo-foo.
Okay, it's probably foo-foo.
Fuck the yellow text one.
Let me look. Crisis
That's just
of
gonna be like,
Civilization.
yeah.
2005, I think it said.
There's one 2011.
Just said 5.
Oh, okay.
These are just the bullshit. It was one of the yellow ones though, so let's just cut it. Pick another one.
Crisis of Civilization.
It does have an IMDb page.
Oh, okay. Then wait, just a sec. Hold up.
Documentary history news. It's so the The Crisis Civilization is a documentary feature film investigating how global crises like ecological disaster, financial meltdown, dwindling oil reserves, terrorism, and food shortages are converging symptoms of a single failed global system, proving that another world is not merely possible but on its way.
Okay, I'm gonna say pass.
Yeah, what,
I'm
like
not interested
every
in that.
fucking
It's-
ebb and flow of every civilization.
This is the kind of bullshit book you see on the shelves at Walmart that
Yeah.
stay there for years.
Wait, you're telling me my beautiful state may one day not be here? That's fucking madness.
Yes, ma'am. Get out.
I'm gonna shoot you with my revolver.
Yeah, it seems
We've
kinda
been
like,
here for over 200 years. That is so long.
like a foo-foo documentary.
All right. Classification foo-foo. Shall we pick another one?
Let's go.
Classification, yeah.
Heavy metal in Baghdad.
Oh, shit. Is this our first Vice doc?
I believe so.
Which is cool because this is one of the first, like, I think one of the first features that Vice did. Because it won a
Heavy
bunch.
metal in Baghdad. Cool.
Yeah, so-
I've heard about this, but
We have it
seen
on DVD.
IMDb says,
Rad.
in the late summer of 2006, in the middle of the insurgency, filmmakers Eddie Moretti and Soroush Alvi traveled to Baghdad to meet and interview the only heavy metal band in Iraq.
Those are the two dudes that started two of the guys that originally started Vice.
Heavy Metal in Baghdad is the story of the band and its members, young Iraqis whose lives have been distorted, displaced by years of continual warfare in their homeland. Cool.
It's intense.
hell yeah. This is going to be cool.
It's a cool doc.
Yeah. You said we do have it on DVD? Awesome.
Yeah, right here on the end.
Perfect.
Right there on the end.
Excellent. So we'll crank up the fucking heavy metal music next week.
Can we like punch each other on the podcast?
I went to like a heavy metal show when I was in college, and I wanted to like destroy everyone when they get there dancing with their legs kicking in.
See that? I feel like you would thrive in that environment.
No, man, I hate it. I was like, just like, I'm all for moshing and everything like that,
Yeah.
but yeah, this
I
one's
would have loved to
crazy.
have been a fly on the wall then.
Awesome. Thanks for listening, guys.
Later.